Let's turn over a new leaf, make promises we can keep, and call it a New Year's resolution. These are the wise words of Otis Redding, and he makes it sound simple. But for so many of us, New Year's resolutions are daunting. It's all this self-induced pressure. What if I don't get it done? We don't want to set up situations where we're going to fail. That's not comfortable for anybody. My guest today, Jen Ballou, she frames this in a much different way and makes New Year's resolutions, or as she says, goals, a lot more attainable. Instead of thinking about going from January to December and all the things you want to get done, let's just figure out what we can get done in January. Let's check in with ourselves. Then see what we can get done in February, check in, all along, making it an iterative process so we can make sure we're remaining balanced and we're getting out of the process a love for the process. Because if we don't like the process, we're never going to enjoy the end result. So much of any road trip is the journey and not the destination. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Wi-Fi Water. Jen, welcome to Wi-Fi and Water. Let's talk New Year's resolutions. Go.
All right. So don't like to think of New Year's resolutions because so many times in the past, I've set them, they've lasted a month, and then you feel like a failure. And I don't want to feel like a failure for the next 11 months. So a couple of years ago, I kind of stopped making them. And instead, I love to write lists. So I used to write them out in a notebook, but 2 years ago when I moved to Hawaii, I started using Post-it notes, and I have them all over my wall. Right now, they're very organized, and there's only some, and I will screenshot them and show them to you in a second. When the first time I did it, my entire wall was covered in Post-its, and I kind of just broke down resolution into something else because I didn't like the idea of a resolution. I liked the idea of a goal. So like looking forward to something made me feel more accountable to get there rather than saying like a resolution is a change and it's got to last forever. So I kept it as goal, and then I just check in like every month, and like each month is a different thing that I check in on. Some of them's financial, some of them's like a life goal, some of them's bucket list. But yeah, I love the idea of Post-it notes because they're removable and you can replace them anytime you need to adjust. And you can kind of like organize them however you need to. So right now on the wall, I have the end of 2020 goals, which was I checked in November, like around Thanksgiving, and rolled out what I wanted to do for the last month. And then I did 2021 goals, 2022 goals, and then 3-year goals. So like 2021 to 2023. And then, wrote them all out. So I don't like to think of resolutions. I like to think of them as goals.
I do the same thing. I like sticky notes a lot, and they're just something physical. And in a world where everything is typed or texted or done on your phone or done on a computer, I think there's something magical. And it's a wild word to say, but I think there's something magical about having tangible things that remind you about what you're hoping to get to. Mm-hmm. People say that, if you don't write your goals down, you're never going to achieve them. And the same thing will go for resolution. And I think resolutions, just even the word resolute, I'd look it up and it's a little firm. It's purposeful, determined, and unwavering. And I just feel like unwavering, if I'm just trying to lose some weight, it doesn't have to be unwavering. I can like take a day off of not sticking to my diet, of not working out. And I think that's where people get lost. And so I think goals are a lot more attainable. And so you have 2020 goals are really coming to an end, 2021, 2022, all the way through 2023. And then if you start to eclipse your 2022 goals in 2021, that's okay. Because then you're just making up more time. Or how does that work? And then as you eclipse those, do you then make up new ones?
Each month I check in with myself, like, how do I feel financially? Because I run my own business. So like, that's a big part of it. How do I feel financially? How do I feel personally? Like, are my personal goals moving forward? And I kind of take it month by month, to be honest, rather than doing it like year by year, because so much changes in 1 year, like within yourself, your job, your friends, your family, that it's too hard to like just set goals in the beginning and at the end, because just so much happens in the middle. So I check in every month. And my Post-it notes are in a place that's right above, like here I am sitting in my office. So like they're right above my computer. So they're always visible. And what you were saying about having them be tangible and written down, I think is so important. But having them in a place that you're regularly seeing triggers something in you each day or month or whenever you look at it, because it reminds you of what it is. And I feel like for me, that's helped me achieve all the things I've written down. So I wish I had taken photos of them 2 years ago, but every time that I go and like replace a lot of them, or reorganize them, it feels really good to take one off that I've accomplished. And like, I wish I had like documented it, but I remember when I moved apartments, I was taking them down and I was like, wow, I actually achieved all of these. And when I had written them, I expected them to take 2 to 3 years. And this is for business goals I had written down. So that was really exciting. It made me feel really good. And I think that's something that like with your New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals, to check back with yourself and pat yourself on the back when you've accomplished something or you've done something consistently, even if you messed up along the way and you skipped a week of working out or something. I think it's really cool to like check in again and see like what you've done. And that gives you inspiration to keep moving forward.
How do you break up your goals? Are there, if you had to break them up, or maybe they are broken up? Because in my mind, it's like most people are our age and we're in our early 30s. And this could be for anyone. You have personal, professional, and spiritual. Does that seem to resonate with where your goal themes are?
So I have financial, like I'm just looking at my columns here.
And is that professional for your business?
No. So financial is for personal. So like I'm paying off a loan, I'm paying off a credit card, I'm saving money for a house, and I'm saving money for a trip that I want to go on if we can ever go anywhere.
If we can ever, yeah, exactly.
We can ever go again. So like those are my big personal financial goals. And that's more important to me than the business side because I've completely changed how I think about my life in the last 5 years. And that like my work-life balance used to be only about work. And I really defined myself as like what my work was, and anything that was going on in my life, like just was so focused on work that it was taking away from so many other parts of my life. So I decided to shift and like reframe and put myself first. So my financial goals are always like what's going on in my personal life first. And then I keep my business goals separate. They're not actually up on the wall here. There's like very general ones, like I'm trying to build a creative agency in the next 3 years and expand what I'm doing. So it's not just graphic design and photography, and build it like much bigger. So like that's one personal goal as like a small part, not like the major part. And then my financial goals for my business are totally somewhere else. They're not always up here. They're in like spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so buckets are financial, personal, then regular personal. So my big goals for this year, for 2020 was just to like make it through 2020 and like be happy, explore as much as you can on the islands, go to the beach, get on a boat, whatever. But for next year, I'm going for my captain's license, which would enable me, if I wanted to drive a boat commercially as the captain. And then I also have like a major big goal, which says 2021, but might need to go into 2022, but to get my pilot's license to fly a plane. So I have a lot of friends around here who do that. So I like feel like I'm on that path. I'm just not there yet. So it's up there with all the things to figure out how to get there. Again, in personal, like I want to get a dog. So that's there too. Learn how to surf. That's in there too. Travel, hopefully, if we can at some point. And then I don't have spiritual goals up there. Personal is kind of all involving or all encompassing of spiritual. So I have like, writing in a journal, listening to podcasts of therapists. I don't have a therapist. I'm looking for a therapist because Hawaii is a little bit different than you guys at home. I prefer to meet with someone in person. So trying to figure that out. I had a health coach for a couple of months, and she was kind of like the middle ground between a therapist and a nutritionist together. And so after our 3 months is over, which will be in January, then I want to kind of continue on my health path with a real therapist. So that's on the list. And then let's see what else is there. Big goals, which I said like 3 years. So I want to open a pottery studio. That's like big goals, 3 to 5 years. So I have like everything in the gamut. And I did this 2 years ago, and I had some of these things are still on here, like pilot's license, captain's license, get a dog, learn how to surf. But there were other things on there that were sail to another island, get on a race team, travel to every Hawaiian island that was out here. So like I had made a bunch of goals and I was able to like pull them off. So it's really just personal, and then bucketed into like finance, work-life balance, and bucket list.
One of the things when I think about resolutions or goals, I think the easiest one to think about is just getting in shape. So it's like, I want to get in shape, whatever that looks like. For every person, that's a different thing. Yeah. And then once you've defined that, it's like, okay, why do I want to get in shape? I want to get in shape because X, Y, or Z. I want to feel better. I'm going to a wedding and I want to look better in 6 months with my family is going to be there or something. And I think why a lot of resolutions or goals fail is that people don't enjoy the process. And the thing that keeps them going is the end result. And if it's just the end result, what's going to happen is you're not going to be getting up at 6 a.m. every morning to go to yoga. Maybe you'll do it the first week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. But after that third month, if you're not enjoying the process or whatever the process looks like, I think that's where it breaks down. So if you love the process, the end goal is just kind of like something that will eventually happen. And so of your major goals, let's look at surfing, because surfing is brutal. Surfing has a very difficult learning curve. And I have played sports all my life. I would consider myself an athlete, definitely. And I can pick up things and play around and be okay at them. But surfing, you need, from like my estimation, this is what everyone told me too. They're like, oh yeah, you need months before you can even do what would be the basic. Whereas like to ice skate, you go out 2 or 3 times, you're going to be feeling really great after the third time compared to the first. And ice skating is already a difficult thing. Never mind, we go farther down. It's like basketball or soccer. Anyone can pick up a ball and throw it near a hoop, or someone can kick a ball and get it near a goal. And so with surfing, why has it, and it's good that you mentioned it, we're very transparent about it still being on your to-do list, I guess you could say, or things, goal list, because you're in Hawaii, right? And so for us on the mainland, I guess you could say, we assume, come on, there's like, you must surf to work. Obviously, I know that's hyperbole, but what is it keeping you from jumping into surfing?
It's funny because people ask me this all the time. So I work on a catamaran that pulls up through Waikiki Beach, through the surf line multiple times a week. And I'm intimidated by even like Waikiki Beach is like a beginner surf spot. It's where everybody goes and takes lessons. There's also pros out there too. So like it's where longboarding is really popular because of the way that the surf breaks. And I feel like when I first, here's the real answer. When I first got here, I had no idea what waves did. Like I just didn't understand them. What back home in Beverly, like at our beaches, the waves are not this big. They're not that powerful. I never noticed that they came in sets of 3. It was just not something, like surf culture was not big where we grew up. So I knew nothing when I got here. And I had only surfed one other time on a family vacation with my dad and sister. And we took a lesson, and it wasn't top of my mind. It wasn't something that I wanted to learn. It wasn't something that like I knew I was going to do again. So it was not like the major thing that I wanted to do when I got here. Getting on a sailboat was like my major goal. So I accomplished that. And every day when I'm at work at this fun job that I have, I pass all these pros and get totally intimidated. And I've gone out a few times. I've gone out probably like 4 times in the last year or two with friends who'd let me borrow a board. But each time I'm so intimidated. It's like, have you been skiing before or snowboarding?
I have not.
Okay.
Isn't that I'm a rarity having been raised in Massachusetts and never been skiing or snowboarding. And that's just because when I grew up, I played hockey. And so every single weekend I was on the ice.
Yeah.
And it wasn't part of our family's culture to go up on the slopes.
Yeah, everybody had their thing. Like I'm not very good at ice skating because we didn't go ice skating very much, but we went skiing. But the only way I can like explain how I felt on the surfboard at a beginner wave with all my friends around me and people, you know, trying to encourage me is that it's like being on a ski hill when you never learned how to ski before and everybody's around you going past you and like you don't really know what to do or how to maneuver your skis or your snowboard yet. So like same with the surfboard, like I don't really know how it reacts to the wave or the water with me on top of it, even if I get to stand up. So I'm so nervous about everybody that's around me. I'm nervous I'm going to hit someone or I'm going to fall on them or whatever. So I just get really nervous. And what I really need to do is just like go out in the morning or during a weekday or go to a other beginner spa where there's not a ton of people and go with friends who know what they're doing and just do it. But I'm too scared. So
I was gonna push you to get there because I feel like many goals, it doesn't matter what it is, pick a goal, right? I know we're talking about this in the context of New Year's resolutions, but I think goals are not completed for 3 reasons: lack of confidence, fear,
mm-hmm.
which is what you're touching upon,
mm-hmm.
and then poor prioritization.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere in between there, it's a mix of those. One will maybe come to the front. That's why you're not doing it. And some of the fear too can be shame-based. And I will admit this full stop. I didn't go to a yoga studio for a long time because I felt like I could just do it on YouTube, but I was too lazy to do that. And B, it was just some kind of like it was a fear or a shame-based thing. And then I think finally the prioritization, because this whole year, this is something that's on my list to do, was to make an album of music because it's so simple. I can record this, I can put it together and I can throw it up and it will just be out there for people to listen to if they want. And if they don't, whatever, I created my album and I can move on. I said last year, that's what I want to do this year. Well, I have less than 24 hours essentially left in the year and I have not done that. And so I look back and it wasn't a lack of confidence in my ability to do it. And it wasn't fear. So for me, it's like, I just didn't prioritize it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, because there's definitely fear there, right? And shame, because I'm in like surfing capital of the world. Like everybody knows how to surf here. So there's a little bit of intimidation and fear from that, but it's the prioritization. I kept telling myself, oh, you'll probably make more time to go practice if you had a surfboard. And every month or two, I look at my list and I see like learn surf and be like, okay, step 1, get a surfboard. And so I'll go on a Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever and try to find one. And then I'll be like, no, none of these are good. And then give up instead of going to like a used surfboard store or just like pick a shitty one and go, or crappy one, sorry.
No, it's fine. You could say that.
And just go and try it. So like priorities, like I prioritized a lot of other things this year and surfing wasn't one of them. And it could have been because for COVID, like even when the island was shut down, you could still go surfing. And the opportunity that I had was then, like I wasn't doing anything. I could have done that. I wanted to be in the water. And instead I bought a stand-up paddleboard because I already know how to do that. So could have bought a surfboard.
I think it's good that you realized, though, that was a moment where I had an opportunity to do it and I didn't do it. And then reflecting on maybe why I wasn't literally able to jump in the water and get it done. And what you say about the surfboard, I could just go on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and buy a crappy surfboard and go for it. For me, on like a personal level, I constantly am like, when am I trying to perfect instead of just acting? Right. If you listen to the last episode, which was a guest shout out episode, and what I tried to do was I tried to do it all in one take. the take that you actually hear is probably like the sixth take, because I perfected and I'd look and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I want to do it all in one take. I said the wrong thing. I used the wrong word. And so the last podcast I did, if you go back and listen, episode 30, I don't really like it. And it's all me. There's no guest. And so, but I was just like, you know what? If I don't put this one out, if I don't get this thing out, I can't do the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And so many times I think we're all looking, and I'm going to call it the surfboard now, the surfboard theory. We're all looking to have a perfect surfboard and we don't even know how to surf.
Exactly.
And it's like, just whatever it is, whatever, especially if it's something new for anyone listening to this and they've been thinking, anyone listening to this, and it's going to say something about New Year's resolutions don't work or something clickbaity, you're going to click on this and you're going to get to this point. And I promise you, there is one or two things that you want to do this year, or you've been saying you wanted to do all last year, that you literally haven't done because of the, now I'm going to call it the surfboard theory, because you're trying to make, you're perfecting over acting, and that will lead to inaction 145% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And as you look into 2021, excuse me, what other things pop up for you where you could apply the surfboard theory, where you're maybe trying to be a little bit too perfectionist rather than just saying, screw it, I'm going to just do it?
Yeah, that comes up, I think, for a lot of us in so many different areas of our lives. Like, even I'm just thinking now, like for my personal business, I've been saying, oh, I'm going to expand. But I just kind of stay in my comfort zone. And I think for so many of us, it's easy to keep going day to day to day, doing what we already know, rather than like reaching out, failing, trying something new, and like just, stumbling our way through it and then actually getting to the place we want to be. And I think that stumbling part, like, humans just don't want to do. Like, we just don't want to fail. It just doesn't feel good to like want to fail, but you need to like keep moving forward. And I have to remind myself that all the time with anything new that I try or do, or even just meeting new people. So I'm on the boat meeting constantly. Our customers are from all over. I mean, right now they're all from the US, but pre-COVID, they're all over the world. And having conversations with different people from all over the world was not something that I did very often. And I love talking to people and I love like getting to know people, but just getting over those hurdles and those little stumbling moments, you just gotta do it.
Do you personally have a fear of failure? Do you think that's what holds you back from things?
100%. And I don't want to blame it on my upbringing, because I don't think that's fair. I think my parents did a really great job raising me. I think that's what's made me so successful in my life. And I consider myself successful. So had I not had the upbringing that I had, I don't think that I would be here saying like I live in Hawaii and my goal is to learn how to surf. I think I would be doing something totally different. So I definitely blame it on my childhood, but I'm not mad about it, because I think that being a perfectionist or wanting to do things the right way or trying to get your ducks in a row before you go try it isn't necessarily a bad thing, unless you're beating yourself up about it and it's been like 10 years and you're making yourself feel really bad about it, which I don't think I'm there yet. So
I spent many years of my life working in Guatemala. And one of the things that was most prominent about any type of project, whether it was a business or just a simple community project, was the fear of failure. Because culturally, if you fail there, it's really, really bad. Whereas I want to challenge your upbringing a little bit, because I feel like in the United States, where there's a culture of failure, there are, quote, successful people that from the age you are young, you'll hear all these quotes of them saying, go out and fail. Go out and fail. That was like the first Steve Jobs quote I ever heard, which is like, go out and fail. And so I think it's less in our culture, the fear of failure. It's more the fear of other people seeing us fail and the shame that brings, because we've all failed, because we've all had to make food for ourselves at one point or another. And we've done a horrible job. So it's not so much that I'm worried about making bad food. It's I'm worried about making a crap dish and then inviting Jen over and her being like, oh, you tried.
Most of the things that I'm afraid of failing on, the big things have been like oh, my parents are going to not like this. So, and I guess like if you were to think back to like high school and maybe like whether or not you were passing or failing a class, you'd worry about your peers, or sports, you weren't good enough in sports. So I guess, yeah, but you're right. Like our culture definitely has said like fail and keep going. But as humans, I think in general, no matter what culture you're in, you don't want to fail, whether it's for yourself or for somebody else. It just doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good, but I think it's also a mindset thing where it's like, because I've had some big fails. I mean, 2020, and I've not spoken yet on this podcast about this, but right before the pandemic hit this side of the world, which was about the Ides of March, it was like March 13th or 15th, I was gearing up to have people from the States down in Colombia for a yoga meditation, vegan food, 6-day retreat. And then overnight, boom, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. And I knew the second it was gone, it was not going to come back soon. And like you said, I don't know when we're going to be able to travel again, but it's also like with that failure, I've learned a lot. And now with businesses going forward, I think as business owners have done, and you've probably had to do, we have to start to COVID proof our businesses and think about how they can not only survive yet thrive in a remote virtual setting, which I think you've been essentially working remote as I have been for years. But when you look forward to 2020, are any of your goals, have you shifted or altered any of your goals to make them pandemic proof?
Yes. So I haven't always worked remote. So I've only worked remotely for 2 years. The prior 8 years, so that 8 or 9 years since I graduated, I was in corporate. So I lived in the very safe bubble of like always having a paycheck, and a safety net and 401k and all that stuff. And then I quit my job and moved here in the end of 2018 and had to learn all how to be remote, not only how to work remote, but communicate on a different time zone. And I mean, which I'd done for work before, but not where it's like I'm now responsible for making it easier for my clients versus where it was vice versa before. And then basically just learning how to be a freelancer was the whole first year of my business. And it was pre-COVID. And it was the struggle. It was really hard. And I had been told, and the only reason why I got through it is because someone gave me the advice in the beginning that the first 4 to 5 years were going to suck and they were not going to be easy and it was going to be hard. And then once you get through that, it'll be okay. And I've heard from other people, it's like the first 2 years, first year, whatever. But the first year was kind of hard, but also kind of easy. I had 10 years of experience and I had 10 years of networking before that, or 8 years. And so I had a lot of people to reach out to and talk to and get advice from, and also ask if they needed work. And so the first 6 months was actually kind of easy, I thought. And then it got harder because I didn't have clients that were consistent. I just had lots of projects that were not the same, but they needed a lot of, and then they would figure out how to do it internally. And so then I would move on to like a new client and the same thing would kind of happen. So for 2021, I've been the last 2 months when I haven't really had any work, and that's why I've been working on the boat a lot. I've been trying to figure out ways that I can make things as a designer. I can just create things that are downloadable and easily, like I can just make it once and then people can buy it and use it. And so I've been kind of brainstorming that kind of stuff. It doesn't really jazz me up in any way, but I went off on a tangent on Etsy and I found this one person who had created all these downloadable lists, and they were from literally everything from the chores in your house to business type lists. And I was like, wow, what an awesome resource if you aren't a designer and you can't create these things yourself. And she charged, like 50 cents for the download. And I was like, what a great idea. And I've always had that in the back of my mind, like try to create like downloadable things that people can just buy. And then you don't have to keep making them to try to have residual income. And so I thought maybe that should be my focus for 2021. But again, it doesn't jazz me up. So I haven't done anything really to try it out.
And that's the process. If
Yeah.
you don't like the process, it's not exciting for you to think like, oh, I could make $10 a day by selling my live, laugh, love design
Yeah.
on Etsy at all.
Yeah, that doesn't jazz me up. So that's why I thought like, okay, maybe this list idea rather than just art might jazz me up a little bit because I'd be creating them for myself and then maybe other people would benefit from it. So like I always have a calendar. I always have like a full year calendar and I never like how they're laid out. Like I literally don't use any of these pages. The only pages that I use are like the full month calendar and I search for ones that would work for me all the time. So I'm like, well, maybe I should make a calendar and have that be a thing. But again, like, does that really jazz me up? Not exactly. So 2021, what I've written out as my goals personally is to get, again, this has been my same 5-year goal since I started to be a freelancer, is to get clients that resonate with my values. So this could be a very simple way that I would get clients that would resonate with my values because I love lists and I would probably people who also like lists would like them. But the bigger goal is to keep reaching out to companies or small businesses here that need my marketing or design help. That's kind of just what's on my list for 2021. It's just to keep moving forward as if COVID, not that COVID doesn't exist, but that to keep moving forward because I'm lucky to work remote. I'm lucky to design remotely and I can help companies remotely. I don't know how to answer your question.
No, that's a good answer. My question came from a place of like, maybe this year, what we need to do is everyone I know is going to say travel. And that will look like different things. Could be domestic travel, could be taking, if you're in Massachusetts, a road trip to Maine. It could be going to Niagara Falls, could be whatever it wants. Could be driving all the way to Toronto, staying a couple of days, coming back. That would be kind of like international. Maybe it's that we need to see what we get from travel and pull it apart and unpack it. Because what we get from travel are new experiences. What we get from travel is getting outside our comfort zone. What we get from travel is trying things we've never done before and maybe really see where we can do those things, pull those 3 things out of travel and see where we can do those in our immediate surrounding in 20 miles. Because there's probably a cuisine we could try that we haven't tried. If you haven't tried Ethiopian food and you're listening to this, go try Ethiopian food. It is my favorite cuisine. No utensils. It's very veggie friendly. Instead of being like, oh, we have to get on a plane and go to some place, I think it's really empowering to think of travel and the benefits we get from it and just kind of reframe and restructure that conversation in our head, because then we won't be like, oh, God, it's another year where I can't get on a plane and go escape. But it's like, no, I can drive an hour and go try this food that I've never tried, or I can try to learn a language online with a native speaker through Zoom for like $15 every week. And so pull those things out of the travel, and all those things are going to be a lot more financially responsible potentially.
Yeah. And for anyone listening that hasn't tried camping, I highly suggest you do that. It is an experience that everyone I think should have because you have to depend on yourself a lot and a lot of personal growth there.
Are you saying camping by yourself or camping with others or both?
If it's COVID friendly, camp with a friend or partner. But if you are feeling really adventurous and you've never camped by yourself or you've never hiked by yourself, that's a really, really cool experience. I can't really speak to camping by myself because I've never done that, but I hiked by myself. And actually this past year, I got to check a big bucket list item off my list. I went and camped in the Nepali coast or hiked the Nepali coast on Kauai, and we camped out for a few days. And the entire trip from pretty much 3/4 of the drive from the place we were staying all the way until the end when the person picked us up, we didn't have cell service or anything. So there was no Googling. If we couldn't figure something out, we were totally on our own. That was a really, really cool experience. Plus the 22 miles of hiking.
It sounds awesome. And I eventually will get to Hawaii one day and hopefully you'll still be there and I can go hiking, surfing. You guys have everything there. You're really blessed with that stuff.
You have no idea. Honestly, like, I love Massachusetts. I love the Northeast. I think there's so much to see and do out there. So anybody who's like feeling like, okay, I can't travel and I don't know what to do, please ask me. I will tell you all my if you like the outdoors and you like walking around, that is something that you should explore. Like find a new trail, find a new hike, find a new Massachusetts is awesome because we have the trustees of reservations and there are so many properties you can go visit. As far as I know, you can still go to them. I know it's winter, so it'll be a little bit different of an experience, but I mean, you guys got so many lighthouses and just go walk around and look at something you haven't looked at before. I mean, for me, maybe because I'm in my 30s now and I'm getting older, I start to appreciate so many things I didn't care about before, like birds.
Go on.
This might be because I met this really awesome person through some friends at a bachelorette party who studies birds. So I have a new appreciation for them. But birds and fish, and I know fish are a little bit easier for me because I'm in Hawaii, but I've noticed the last few months that I've been looking more around me and noticing birds and fish that I've never seen before, even though I've been looking at the same sky and one spot in the ocean where we take people to snorkel for the past 2 years. But each time I look, I see something different. And I think for people looking to travel and they can't get that far away or they don't have the finances for it, you could create your own little like scavenger hunt and make a local vacation more exciting. And maybe even here's an idea. You do it with a friend and you make a scavenger hunt for your friend and your friend makes one for you.
There it is. Right there. Well, whenever you come back this way, we'll do that. We'll go hang out. We haven't seen each other in, I don't know, maybe a decade. And we'll do a scavenger hunt with local stuff.
Yeah. Go find a new bird or a new wildlife animal or a new lighthouse.
Well, thank you for joining the pod. And I wish you so well. And send us some warm weather from Hawaii.
Yeah. Sending all the rainbows and sunshine.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Wifi Water, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Wifi Water Podcast. And wait, before you go, I recently put up a poll or a question on Instagram, and I asked, if you're not doing New Year's resolutions, why not? And these were some of the responses. I'm too busy trying to do all the things I resolved to do yesterday or last week. It's too much self-induced pressure. It's a setup for disappointment if things don't go as planned. And finally, I try not to look at starts and finishes. Every day is a great day to work to get better. I hope you took something away from this episode and know that you are not alone if New Year's resolutions seem daunting. But hopefully, like this last quote, you can try to just take every day as a day to improve and just get better. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.